should one of the majors be match play? I was yes, 100%. I got to Sunday and I was like, no way.
It's because in your head,
no way.
You're thinking of like Tiger and DJ coming down the street. So
I've got a quick question for you.
Okay.
Only because this weekend it was WGC and it was match play. It was the best 64 players in the world, and they went into groups. They then went into quarterfinals, semi-finals, final, and Billy Horschel won it.
Okay.
It was a terrible weekend of golf, to be honest. It wasn't that exciting.
Right.
But a question that popped up on social media. Do you think...
Was this from Paige Spranick, by the way?
It was.
Yeah.
Do you think one of the majors should be match play?
Is that what you're asking me now?
I'm asking you now.
No.
So any other elaboration?
I'd say because winning a major is obviously deemed as the highest achievement in golf, isn't it? There's only 4 every year.
Yeah.
So to win a major in your whole career is a ridiculous achievement. And as we've mentioned on previous podcasts, some of the biggest names in golf, i.e. Montgomery comes to mind straight away, have never won a major. So to win one, you go down in history, okay?
Yeah.
And I know golf can never be massively fair because of the draws of a tee time. If you're playing at St Andrews and you've got a morning tee and it's calm, or Carnoustie probably a better example and it's calm, and then somebody else has a late tee time and it's really windy, you've played a different course. But that's just kind of luck of the draw, quite literally.
Rub of the green.
Yeah, exactly. But with a... I suppose it's hard to say because obviously I know football tournaments or soccer in America, like the World Cup and that is done in kind of essentially like not match play, but yeah. It could be unfair because of the draw that you get. It could be you could play easier people and gets the final, where somebody else could play higher ranked people and gets the semi. So they've in theory played better golf than you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
They could play higher ranked people and get to the semi and then get knocked out by, let's just say, Rory. Whereas you could play lower ranked people and get to the final, but actually everybody that you've beat, the other person's beat better people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I know you can say that about actual major, but with a major, it's kind of like 72 holes, it's stroke play, and ultimately the best golfer wins it. But with this, it might not always be the best golfer wins it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I started watching the match play this week when there's a lot of golfers, and really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So when there were 64 golfers out there, and they were in groups, and you had some great matchups where like Poulter beat Rory McIlroy, some like complete, not nobodies, but not big names were like beating like Dustin Johnson and people like that. It was madness, and I really enjoyed that because I felt like, again, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Ryder Cup. Like, I feel like I really get behind certain players. I really seem to weirdly become much more passionate about the Europeans playing in that match play event. Yeah. So I was really supporting like Fleetwood. I would do anyway, but like Sergio, like really supporting Sergio, and that's not probably someone I'd typically support. Like John Rahm.
So it's just if the final was Sergio v Dustin Johnson, you'd want Sergio to win.
Yeah.
Would you really?
Yeah, I would.
But what if it was those two going down the stretch at the Masters?
Probably DJ.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know why. It felt more... And maybe it was more because I relate it to the Ryder Cup. Like, I feel like I was watching it thinking, oh, he'd be a good little pick for... He could partner with... I don't know why, because I'm not the captain. I'm not Padraig Harrington. But it kind of gave me like that almost excitement. It reminded me of you know, the challenge of match play. Like, I loved the matches that went dead early doors. Like, players went like 4 up and then like... end up losing the match. Like, I think it was Bubba Watson versus Brian Harman, weirdly 2 left-handed players. Bubba went 4 up in the match, and then Brian Harman made 8 birdies on the bounce to go up in the match and then win. This was also really interesting. There was 3 left-handed golfers get through to the quarterfinal. So Rob McIntyre from Scotland, who beat DJ, I think.
He's killing it at the minute.
Brian Harman and Bubba Watson. And then weirdly, out the draw, Bubba Watson and Brian Harman drew each other, because it could have easily been like even semi-finals got 2 left-handed players. But either way, I just found it really interesting. But then I thought about it more, and it got through to the weekend, and I absolutely now do not believe a major should be match play.
Is that because the names didn't excite you as much? That,
and also it was a bit boring to watch. Like, just 2 players. I watched it last night, not loads.
Yeah, that's true.
It was Scotty Scheffler, not a massive name, nice lad, not and Billy Horschel, again, nice.
The
nice
big
guys.
names in the golf world, but not necessarily outside of like if they were the last two in a major, or people would be thinking, a lot of people who aren't massive golfers wouldn't know who they were.
Exactly. But it was boring. Like, there was so much dead space, so much, I mean, dead slow players anyway. But, like, it wasn't exciting at all. Like, literally, I kept flicking on, and I'd watch a shot, and I was watching on my phone, to be fair, and I'd jump out of the app, go on something else, because there was nothing happening in between the shots. Like, what would have potentially made it more exciting if it was a bit more like the match and they were mic'd up and they, you know, you were really getting a bit of interaction with them. But none of that was happening because it was for such a massive prize. It's not just like an exhibition match.
Yeah, it's a proper tournament, isn't it?
And I just found it like,
It would be good if there was more tournaments that weren't necessarily always 4 days of stroke play.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But I think the 4 majors should remain as they are. I do think it would be nice to have another one elsewhere in the world. I don't quite know where. But obviously, we've got one in kind of the UK, Ireland, or whatever, and you've got 3 in America. I think the Masters obviously should always be at Augusta, obviously.
But have you heard that news today that there was something in the... I didn't read the article enough in time, but apparently the local... I don't want to get this wrong. So there was something about the Masters potentially needing to move.
Really?
I know. I don't want to get it wrong. So I don't want to Masters or Augusta. Is there anything on news today? I'm sure I read something. Civil rights group call for the PGA Tour that Masters to pull event from Augusta National in protest of Georgia's new voting law.
Wow.
But I don't know if that's going to happen. But yeah, I remember I read something today. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, I would like to see one elsewhere.
Where would you have it?
Just on the road. Somewhere random all the time.
So a different country?
Yeah. Just have one of the... So you've got... Well, this is the only problem. You've got, obviously, the Open, our Open, the UK Open, England, Ireland, etc. That should stay where it is. But that does roam. It goes to different places. Yeah. You've obviously got Augusta, which stays in the same place all the time. The Masters, you got the US Open, and you got the US PGA. So unless you change the name of one of those two,
could have just because it's known as just the PGA, I suppose, a lot of the time, isn't it? Could the PGA, obviously the US wouldn't like that, but just be called the PGA and travel across the world. That could be what would make it different and exciting.
Like, I'd love to see it in Dubai. I'd love to see it in Australia. I'd love to see it in China. I'd love to see it in all these different places. I'm not sure why. I'd love to, just because it's different.
Yeah.
And maybe does that help golf become bigger? Does that help golf across the globe? The little Jimmy who's out in Australia, in Sydney, suddenly gets to see the best 125 best players in the world, which never happens in Australia ever, or other countries or whatever it may be. You know, America do have 3 majors, and if you want to go and see the best players in the world, you've got a pretty good chance to go and watch it. And you have, I suppose, in the UK, like we've been to loads of Opens.
Yeah.
It's accessible. Imagine if that was elsewhere as well.
I think though people like to change things, don't they? Sometimes, and it's like, actually, if it changed, would you like it more?
Maybe not.
It's hard to know, isn't it?
But that was amazing for me. I honestly, 100%, if I'd have been asked that question on Thursday or Friday, should one of the majors be match play? I was yes, 100%. I got to Sunday and I was like, no way.
It's because in your head,
no way.
You're thinking of like Tiger and DJ coming down the street.
But it might not happen.
Exactly. That would be class.
Yeah. But, and that's what's so good about majors is that, yes, you might have a couple of two, you know, Scotty Scheffler and Billy Horschel might be 1 and 2, but you've got like Rory at 5 and you've got DJ at 4, and you're thinking they could just potentially switch this on and do it, you know, make a charge. With a match play, you just got 2 players. That's the outcome. It's going to be him or him. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but I go against it being a major.